So we find ourselves in uncharted waters, friends. And man, are these waters choppy right now. All of us, I think, during this time of the coronavirus and the COVID-19 fallout, find ourselves feeling like this was not what I had planned. This is not what I was expecting in my life right now. This wasn't on my itinerary. And there's other things that can come up in life that can make us feel that way too, that kind of throw us off what we're used to or what we're expecting, right? But this is one that we all are sharing right now. So it's something that we're kind of going through together. Even though, as I've seen several people post on social media, we're in the same storm, but we're all on our own ship, right? So everybody's handling it a little differently. And I don't know about you guys, but I've found myself at times just getting so caught up, feeling frustrated and sad that I can't spend time with family and friends like I usually would. Sometimes I'm just feeling overwhelmed and confused by all the information that's coming from so many different resources about what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, how the virus is acting, what's safe, what's not. It's just overwhelming sometimes. And then on top of all of that, the one way that we seem to all be able to still communicate with each other during this time of social distancing is through social media, right? And we have so many people getting political or, like I said, kind of claiming, oh, you should be wearing this or doing that or not wearing this or not doing that. And it just, it can change your whole perception on what you thought about some of your friends sometimes. And it can just it can make you feel fed up with the whole deal, right? It can just be overwhelming. So what I want to talk to you guys about today is ways that you can control how you're feeling, how your body is reacting to all of this unexpectedness, craziness, overwhelming situation that's going on for us right now. And the good part is you don't have to break quarantine to do it. You don't have to go online and purchase anything more. You don't have to eat anything to do it, which we're all getting caught up into right now, right? So what I want to talk about is that it's very important, even for us to stay healthy, to keep our stress level down, right? It's so easy. If you're watching the news, if you're on social media, whatever you're doing, even if you're not able to do any of that and you feel withdrawn or taken out of society, stress just goes up, right? And it's not a surprise to anyone, I don't think, that the higher our stress is, the more difficult it is for us to stay healthy, because stress can have a significant effect on our immune system. Our bodies are run primarily by our subconscious mind. So as a hypnotherapist, which I have been for the last 7 years now, I've had all kinds of interactions with people with varying problems and issues and concerns and things that they're wanting to change or improve. That it's amazing how much I've learned about how powerful our subconscious mind is. And I don't know if you realize our subconscious is sort of like the bottom part of an iceberg, right? We've all probably seen pictures like that where you see the top part of the iceberg is sticking out over the water, but oh my gosh, underneath the surface of the water, it's 10 times as big, 100 times as big sometimes. And so our conscious mind is like what takes care of that part that's above the water. Our subconscious is the huge part of that iceberg that's under the water. So there's so much that's going on in our lives that's really being run in one way or another by our subconscious. So again, the beauty of that is it's our subconscious. So we get to choose how it works to a certain extent, but we can influence it. And one of the ways to do that is to acknowledge what's going on for us. We have to be aware of what the feelings are that are kind of floating around in there, what energies are going on for us before we can do something about them, right? So acknowledging what we're feeling or what we're going through is one of the things that we're going to talk about today. Then once we've acknowledged that, we can't just say, okay, well, now I know it and now I want to feel better. We have to acknowledge it, and then we have to find ways to process it or release it. And there are many powerful ways to do that. hypnotherapy that I've been using for years now has been one of the most powerful ways to do it, but there are many ways, many different ways. Sometimes you don't even need to go to someone to do it. You can do it yourself. That's the power of it. That's the beauty of it. So once we've released those feelings, the unfun feelings, I kind of like to call them, because they're not always necessarily negative. They're not always sad. Sometimes they're angry, but they're not fun. And it's not what we want to be feeling or experiencing. It's not healthy for us. So when we acknowledge our unfun feelings and then start to figure out how to release them, and we'll talk about that in a few moments, then the next thing is to bring in, kind of replace everything that was the unfun feeling with those new feelings that we want to feel. A feeling of more calm, more confident, more capable of handling these things, just healthier, feeling more balanced, things like that. So the first step, again, is that we're going to talk about is identifying those feelings. The second thing is learning how to use imagery and related techniques to release them or process them. And then thirdly, we're going to talk about how we can bring in the feelings that we want to feel, the experiences that we want to have instead. So as I mentioned, I've been a hypnotherapist for 7 years now. Prior to that, I was a human factors engineer. So for a lot of people, when I talked about making that transition in my career, they thought, holy cow, what the heck? How do you go from engineering to hypnotherapy? That's like very logical, left-brained, analytical, to very kind of woo-woo out there. We don't even know how that works. But the truth is, in both of those areas, I've always been, so for well over 20 years now in my career, I've been studying humans and how they interact with systems, other people, products, all those kinds of things, and trying to find the best ways to make that interaction more efficient, more safe, more healthy, just more positive on all sides. So what I found through my experiences is that, as I mentioned earlier, the subconscious is a very powerful thing, but it doesn't actually have direct access to the outside world. So it relies on our senses. It relies on what we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we smell, what we touch, all those things to understand what's happening in the world. But the problem is it doesn't just get a direct line of what we see. It goes through the filters of how we perceive something. So objectively, we can see something happen. Two different people can see the same thing happen. But because of their experience and things like that, what they store, what goes to their subconscious to act on, can be completely different based on how they interpret what they see. So the beauty of that is, I mean, it can be frustrating because we don't even recognize or realize that that's what's happening for us sometimes, and that that's why we're having a reaction to something that we saw happen or something that we heard or whatever. But the beauty of it is that also gives us the power to retrain that or reframe that, change that filter. So finding ways using imagery to shift from any kind of unfun feeling to one that is something that's more desirable for us. Imagery is extremely powerful in convincing the subconscious mind that we're in a different space than what we originally thought we were. And as I said, the biggest benefit, especially these days with all the concerns about sickness and the virus and catching it and everything, the biggest advantage of that is as we can help ourselves be more calm, less stressed, lower our anxiety levels, it actually even allows us to stay healthier. So why wouldn't we want that? Right? So that's a thing that can give you even more confidence that whatever's happening in the world, we don't know who's right about what at this point, but we know that the more we keep ourselves calm, balanced, happy, we're going to be better off in terms of any kind of exposure to something like this virus or anything else that's out there. So the first thing I would say about determining or understanding what you're feeling is that sometimes we realize it ourselves. Sometimes we're very self-aware. Some people are that way just in some certain situations. People can be very self-aware, but sometimes it helps if you're not really figuring out exactly what you're feeling or dealing with, or can't put a name to it or a word to it in terms of, you know, how I feel, but you don't really know how to describe it. Sometimes it helps to just talk to a friend or a family member, somebody that knows you, well, and can say, you know, I've really noticed that you've been more stressed lately, or you've been more anxious lately, or you just really seem fed up. Sometimes they can see before we can what we're dealing with. So sometimes it's helpful to have that input from a friend or family member. And then sometimes, even if that doesn't seem to be working, then we do want to try to go find a professional, a counselor, a therapist, hypnotherapist, an EFT, or NLP person, coach, something like that. You might want to go to someone who does this on a more regular basis and has the training and the experience to figure out what it seems like is really going on there. One of the things that I do with my clients, first thing, as I see them in their very first session, is we go through a long list of emotions, because I want them to identify. And sometimes it's easier when you look at a list of words to go, oh, yeah, I do have that, right? Instead of trying to figure out what the word is, or if you don't use that language very often, it's just hard to find out. So I have a list, and it's actually something that I can make available for you if you contact me through Facebook or through my website and ask for that emotions list. I'm happy to send that out to anyone who could use it. It's just a PDF, a simple 2-page PDF that has this list. I've found it extremely helpful for my clients to be able to just look through those words and identify, pick out the ones that make sense for them. So I'm happy to make that available to all of you. And as you look through those words, it not only helps me understand what they're going through, it definitely helps them understand more what they're going through, and finding out what they would need to feel better. One of the reasons I like that technique, or that process of identifying what they're going through, is it's sort of like expanding the vocabulary. If you think about people that maybe grew up around snow, you know, Eskimos, for example, have a lot of different words for snow. If you grew up in an area where there wasn't much snow, snow might be the only one that you know about. I grew up in Ohio, so we had snow pretty much every year, but there were snow flurries, and there was a wet snow and a dry snow, and there was hail, of course, which is not exactly snow, but it's frozen rain. There were all kinds of different words. There were blizzards, you know, things like that get more descriptive on what exactly it is about the snow that you need to worry about. So even in terms of rain, you could say it's going to drizzle, it's going to shower, it's going to thunderstorm, it's going to hurricane. You know, there's all kinds of different variations that are more helpful for you to know what you're going to do about it. So sometimes just having that broadened list of words can be very helpful to identify what it is that you're really dealing with. It's like taking you from the primary colors to the list of the pack of 64 crayons. So that's the first step, is identifying what you're experiencing and what you're feeling. Then there are so many different ways that we can use imagery. And the thing that I encourage people to do is to think of something that they're already familiar with. One of the things that works really well for a lot of my clients that I use in their hypnotherapy sessions, and I teach them how to do it on their own whenever they need it, is the idea of burning something up. So if you have a real hot emotion like anger or disgust, or something that's just like high energy, like you're ready to explode, that's a good thing to just throw onto a fire and watch it burn up, because that's a high energy interaction. Watch it burn up. Anything that you throw on that fire can just burn into ashes and turn into smoke. So it's not even the same thing it used to be. It can't come back. So there's a lot of power in that kind of imagery. Another example would be if it's something that's sort of a heavy, low energy kind of feeling, like sadness or depression, or guilt or something like that. For something like that, you might want to actually consider thinking of it as something you would pour out or wring out like a sponge or a mop. And even think about letting that kind of pour into the sea, into the ocean, where it becomes just a little tiny bit, a drop per se in the ocean of everything else that's going on. So it really helps that kind of get dissolved and go away, and it's not going to come back to you that way. So that's the magic of this imagery, and all you would need to do really to help this become effective for you is to close your eyes, especially when you first start, be in a space where you can be relaxed, comfortable, and it can be quiet so that there's not a lot of distractions. And then just allow your mind, as you close your eyes, just allow the imagery to come up in your mind. It might help to have someone else describe it for you since you're trying to relax as you do it. I also do recordings for my clients so that I can talk them through this process. Once you get to that point, you process through those emotions, then you can immediately transition into the imagery of bringing in what you want to feel instead. So you can bring in the feelings of calm, peace, serenity. You can imagine breathing them in from a balloon. And just like you would breathe in from a helium balloon, it actually changes your voice. You can imagine breathing in from a balloon of calmness or of peace and having it actually change the energy in your body. You can also imagine it raining down on you and just soaking into your skin so you feel it throughout your body. So those are some of the amazingly powerful techniques that I use with clients on a regular basis and find a lot of success, even before we kind of dive in and start to dig out any kind of old memories or the reasons why they have the filters they do. These imagery techniques are extremely powerful. And so I hope that they can help you as we go through this crazy time in our nation, in our world. And if you want any other information from me about how to do these techniques, other ways they can be done, any help doing them, or recording so that you can listen, I can talk you through it, you can come to my website. You can actually go to epicrenewal.com or hypnotherapybyjenny.com. And you can contact me at Jenny, Jenny, at epicrenewal.com. Or you can even call or text 321-345-8971. It's my passion and my pleasure to educate people and make sure that they're aware of just how much power they have in tapping into their subconscious mind, and that it doesn't take someone else outside of you to make the change that you want to see so that you can be happier, healthier, and make the world a better place. Thank you.